Good morning. It is 8 a.m. Eastern. You know what time it is. It is time for a Sales Logic Live. I am hanging out here with my partner, Mark Hunter. Mark, I'm in South Carolina. I know you just got home from Phoenix. Busy week.
It has been a busy week, but it's been a good week because we've both been talking to a lot of people, impacting, influencing. That's what sales is. And this morning's episode, this week's episode, we got a great show. We're going to talk about, is your outbound sales process in need of an upgrade? With things changing out there, you bet it is in need of an upgrade. We got a good show planned.
All right, let's go ahead and kick it off. Hey, this is Meridith, Elliott, Powell, and welcome back to Sales Logic Live. Hanging out here with my partner, Mark Hunter. We've got a big show today. I think we're going to talk about something that's really important, and that is outbound sales. And is your process in need of an update? But every week, Mark and I come to you at 8 a.m. Eastern. We discuss a question from you, the audience. So if you ever want to be a part of Sales Logic, we would love it. Just go to saleslogicpodcast.com. Enter your question, reach out to me, reach out to Mark, doesn't matter. We will get you on the show. We discuss a hot topic. We recommend a book. And because we want you to leave with return on investment, we have a lightning round. Now, Mark, before you get into the question and everything we're going to talk about today, I want to talk about something that I think is really important and I'm excited about. And that is our mastermind kicking off in July. This is going to be a powerful opportunity for us to grow, share, learn, keep ourselves accountable. And one thing I love about sales is whenever you invest in doing something to enhance your sales, you get a return on investment because all you got to do is close a deal to pay for it.
The whole mastermind concept is so good, and it's going to be exciting to be able to kind of throw ourselves into other people and have this community grow. But hey, let's go ahead and jump in. We're talking about outbound sales process in need of an upgrade. Is it? Well, here's the sad comment. I bet there's a few people listening who don't even have an outbound sales process. Oh, we'll get to that later. Anyway, the question comes from Juan in Princeton, New Jersey. He says, help. I was on fire last year and was getting indoors and closing deals like crazy. This year, especially in the last month, things have slowed way down. What's going on? What do I do? By the way, I'm in manufacturing.
Well, that says it all, doesn't it? I mean, talk about an environment that I'm surprised that things haven't shifted for you long before now, because manufacturing has certainly been on a roller coaster. So first of all, I want to say yay for noticing and paying attention, because far too often we just continue to do the same sales process, whether it's getting results or not. And we assume it's the economy or the customer, never assuming that we need to change our own process. So what is going on? It's time to upgrade your outbound sales process. It's time to take a look at what's working and what isn't. More importantly, what is shifting in the marketplace and how do you need to adjust things?
Along with that, you got to really understand where your customers are coming from. There's several dynamics. Yesterday, I had lunch with a CEO of a good mid-size enterprise company. And we were talking about the business, talking about the state of things. And every customer, because they have hundreds of customers all over the world, thousands of customers all over the world. And every customer that they're talking to has different needs, different challenges. So here's the deal. You've got to understand what's changed, because companies are looking at things differently, whether it be CapEx, whether it be OpEx, whether it be, do I grow? Do I contract? What do I do with people? What's interest rates doing? All of these things are affecting buying decisions, and it's affecting where people are coming from. And here's the number one piece that I found. Businesses and individuals really are only spending money if it's their top number one or number two priority. If what you have, you may have a great solution, but if it's not one of their top one or two needs, probably nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. So lesson one, if you are not closing, if you are not closing outbound sales, if you're not getting in the door, if you're not having conversations with customers, it's time to upgrade your outbound sales process. Mark, what you just said is brilliant. I mean, I think that's step number one. Just go out and have a conversation with people. I love the fact that you didn't say you were on a sales call. You weren't doing anything like that. You were having lunch with a CEO, just trying to figure out how the marketplace is changing. The second thing I would say is you need to figure out where your outbound sales process is falling down. And what I mean by that is I noticed this about my own this week. In fact, I've been working on some things. I'm getting in the door great. I'm getting turns at bat. I'm doing proposals. Things are struggling to close in a timely manner. I'm feeling a lengthening of the cycle, which tells me something's broken in my urgency. And I need to go back in and look at maybe I'm not qualifying the lead correctly, not getting the urgency right. Maybe I'm not nailing what the problem is. But the beginning of my process is fine. So you don't need to overhaul the entire thing. But the end of my process, something's broken there, and I need to go in there and look at that.
I tell you what, you and I are in the same boat because I'm experiencing the same thing. I was talking earlier in the week with a new client, and they wanted me to talk to all of their VPs, and we're on a group call, and you could tell that there were a couple negative Nellies in there, but a couple that said, "Hey, I'm tired of marinating. It's time to cook. It's time to get going."
Great.
And I thought that was a great line. But what I found interesting was that here you had half the team was saying, "Let's go," including the leader. But there a little bit of resistance there. And what was interesting was it would just threw a little bit of a cold water on the thing. And this is where we have to create urgency. And I'm glad that you brought that up because this whole urgency thing, because it is, I had to take a step back and I had to say, hey, let's look at the numbers. What happens if we don't start cooking? We've been marinating. What happens if we don't start cooking? What are going to be the ramifications? And that was the piece that got people thinking short term. Okay, this is exactly what's not going to happen. And what I find is in uncertainty, people are much more willing to spend to prevent a downside, to deal with a risk than they are to really try to gain an upside. I don't know if you see the same thing.
I definitely see the same things. And I think Tripp is saying it so well, really. He agrees with you, Mark. Understanding what's happening in the customer's world is critical during uncertain times. And I want to clarify that just a little bit more, is it's really important to be using the customer's language at this point. I mean, Mark said to mitigate a risk. I see that far more than they bend towards the negative. I think news cycles and society has already pushed them there. So they're more fear-based. And if you can calm a fear, which is a lot of what Jeffrey is saying here. He says, one thing I've noticed is sales in the past 2 years was on our terms based on availability, increasing prices. Now customers are not in panic mode, which is requiring us to demonstrate value, not just push them. But and so well said, Jeffrey, because demonstrating value is about figuring out what the biggest pain point is and then solving that. And that moves the needle. And I think I'm missing on my pain point right now, which tells me I need to overhaul my sales process.
Well, I mean, again, you're hitting on some real sore spots that everybody's experiencing. And I love that comment that came in earlier. And I love this one here from Larry Levine. The more you know about our customer, the more you grow with your customers. How many in sales know right now what their customer needs to accomplish between now and the end of the year? See, that's getting to this urgency piece. That's getting to it right now. One of the things that I am really high on is, for instance, this lunch I had yesterday. He was an acquaintance. I worked with his company 5 years ago. And this was I just wanted to understand what's going on. We have to spend more time intel gathering, because what does this do? It allows us to be more confident when we're talking with customers, when we're talking with, it just gives us insight. Because here's the other piece. Knowledge is absolute power. And especially right now, if you think about it, customers were calling us because they needed product, because, all this supply chain, especially manufacturing, was absolutely broken. And I hate to say it, but our sales skills may have gotten rusty. Now suddenly we're having to do really outbound selling. And you got to have knowledge and you got to create urgency. Without those
Yeah,
two, nothing happens.
Adam really agrees with you. He says when you don't upgrade your outbound sales process in a changing economic environment, it's like asking the exact same questions over and over again, expecting a different answer. So well said. So again, number one, because we really want you to walk away with a return on investment. Probably everybody listening to this podcast right now, number one is the world outside is changing. So it is time to probably take a look at your sales process, but take a look at it in sections. Don't assume that the entire process is broken. Figuring out where it's stalling. And as Mark said, really going on this listening tour. Mark, John Wong really agrees with you. He says too often salespeople get focus lock on selling. Step back and have a conversation with your clients and listen.
Oh, I love what he says. And Bryn has just chimed in with a great comment that when you take the time to understand your customer's customer, I call this going downstream. Go downstream. Find out where does what you sell, how does it come into their play? Where does it happen? And then go upstream also, because again, you may learn insights upstream. Upstream, downstream is so key, especially in a volatile market like we're in. And here's what you're going to find. You're doing something that your competitors are not doing. You are truly trying to understand the customer. And your customers are going to notice that. They will notice that. And this is the whole key thing that I find. You know you've reached a critical tipping point with your customer when they start asking you questions about the industry. Wow. Now, guess what? You're getting close to being able to really speak urgency and get them to buy now.
Yeah. Well, now that we have the guru of LinkedIn and the guru of social selling on with us right now, Bryn, I'd love to tap into and I'd love to get her wisdom on something that I really think has changed in the outbound sales process and something I feel like I need to change in my outbound sales process. And that is this whole new terminology of warming up your list. You know, here you have this list that you're gonna reach out to. And typically what we've done is we just started making cold calls on that list. But there's this whole idea now of really warming up that list, of spending a lot of time before you ever reach out to make a sales call to really start warming that list up with value add information. So that let's assume Mark is calling on a list and I'm calling on a list. And I just start calling on that list. And Mark starts by reaching out and positioning himself as an expert and maybe spending a good 6 or 8 emails of just investing in building that relationship before he ever makes a call. Bryn, I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions if you're still with us on this whole concept. And Mark, what do you think about that?
I totally agree. One of the things that I strongly suggest is what I call the 10 list. You make 10 lists. What's a 10 list? 10 list is 10 key questions that people in that space need to ask, need to be taught. 10 key facts, 10 key things, 10 key questions you might ask. But the idea is to be thinking in blocks of 10. Why? Because it really has you thinking deep about your customer. 10 things they may need to know about their customer's customer. Now, what does this do? This starts to give you information and insights that you can begin dripping out to them. You can begin posting them on LinkedIn. You can begin putting them on social media. You can begin emailing them, sharing with them. What does that do? That warms up the prospect. And when you do that, you're right. If I'm doing that and you're not, and we both call at the same time, I know Merrill still get the business. Yeah.
Well, I love what Bryn says here so well. Identify what matters to your customers and what they want to consume, not what you want them to know. I love that.
Bingo.
Yeah. It reminds me so much of, and you all have heard me probably tell this story till I'm blue in the face, but I love it. It's the story of Procter and Gamble and how Ivory soap came along. I mean, if you sit in a room and decide the problem that soap solves, most people would say we're dirty and soap cleans you up. But what Procter and Gamble did was went and talked to customers. And with that, they found that people wanted a soap that floated because they were tired of it sinking in the bottom of the bathtub. And that underscores so much what Bryn said. She gave us a second tip here. Lead to your solution, not with it. Don't come next and pitch. You need to earn the right to get the call. I love that. I always say that a sales call is a privilege, and you really need to treat it that way. I think as salespeople with an outbound sales process now, I think one of the biggest things that change is we need to be very mindful of the fact that 20 to 30 people are calling on the same customer. So, what makes it feel different to you? Buying the product is not their problem. They can do that. What they're trying to find is who understands me.
And along with that, yeah, I hate to say it, but a 2-watt light bulb looks pretty good in a dark room. I mean,
Mhm.
because there's so many salespeople out there doing it. Just yesterday, I got 3 different emails, and I don't know, somebody's preaching a new email concept, but they are all, hey, you haven't been responding yet. Just click number 1 if you think I'm funny. Number 2, number 3, and it's like, oh man, that stupid game cycles back around about every 6 months. And it's painful, but it doesn't work. And John Wong jumps in. I believe salespeople need to spend more time on analytics and understanding their verticals. Yes, yes. One of the things I've really been talking about is don't go horizontal with your prospecting, go vertical. You get deep. Where can you be most impactful? John goes on to say, what can we share with our customers? That's that 10 list. John, I love what you're saying here. Absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I love what Adam here says too. Warming up your ICP list is like dating when you need to woo them before even asking them for a date, coffee, lunch, or something otherwise. And again, it feels different. I think when the environment gets tight and the economy shifts or the marketplace shifts or whatever, I feel that people feel less listened to. And if we actually do what sounds crazy but slow down, you're going to be in a much better position to build that trust first. I got to tell you, Bryn chimed in here with number 3. When we get to the show notes, I'm going to put Bryn's thoughts in here so that everybody can get a copy. Because boy, if you do not follow Bryn Tillman, you need to follow Bryn Tillman. She said, ask them for their perspective, vote or quote on a topic. When you care about their voice, they will care about yours. Yeah, invest in your customers before you ask them to invest in you.
And the way Bryn keeps dripping these in there, we could get to 10 different items and we could be having a 2-hour show here this morning.
That's
You
right.
know, there's so much of what we've been talking about here today. And it's all about understanding your customer. Because when you understand your customer, and here's the deal, your objective is to understand the customer almost better than the customer understands themselves. But here's what it comes down to. Never view, and I'm going to go back to Juan in Princeton, New Jersey. It's you're saying help. Don't ever get the attitude of scarcity. You have to have an attitude of abundance. There will always be opportunities out there, and you've got to have that mindset because as soon as you start allowing yourself to believe that there's only one opportunity out there, 2 opportunities, guess what? Your mind begins thinking differently, and it's not a good ending anytime.
Yeah, I think that uh, I think that when if I was just thinking to myself, if your outbound sales process doesn't need to change, then AI really can be doing sales for us because it's just robotic. But the beauty of us as salespeople is we think and we pay attention and we notice. And I love I forget where the comment was, but it was about paying attention to our analytics. And I think it's so important to do that. I love what Dwayne is saying here too. Don't get to the solution too fast. Oh my gosh, Dwayne, back when I used to teach sales in corporate, this drove me crazy. The moment that a young and a junior salesperson would hear a need, they would jump it. And the moment they jumped it, we lost all opportunity to go deeper than that. So really let people talk and you'll uncover so much.
There's so much of what you just said there, and it got comments that are coming in fast and furious, and focus on leads gen is what Amir says. Here's something: in good times, it's easy for salespeople to accelerate forward and get to the close, and this is kind of what we had. Now we're into more difficult times, and you've got to slow down that initial sales process, slow down, what I call getting to the discovery phase, because you've really got to truly understand the customer and develop that level of trust. Because if you don't develop that level of trust with the customer, I don't care how good they're not going to buy.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And even they may buy once, but they're not going to buy for the long haul. And the
Yeah.
reason you want them to buy for the long haul is you have done all the heavy lifting. Getting
Yes.
through the door, having that conversation is the hardest thing you will ever do, getting somebody to give you their time. You want to make sure you do that right. This is the last and the fourth one from Brim. Understand the challenge your buyers are facing 1 or 2 steps before they need you. So crucial. And lead them to your... Go ahead, Mark.
No, go.
No, go ahead.
Well, and that's why you do vertical. That's why you do vertical, because you've got to have so much in-depth knowledge. And when you do, it's amazing how you do it. I'm sorry, I jumped
No,
in.
that's all right. I think that we are burning time here. We better get to the book.
We got great comments coming in.
I love our community. I'm going to continue to put everything, all your comments up here, because they are just amazing.
But hey, we need to jump to the book. The book this week, I'll tell you what, Trish Bertuzzi. I haven't talked to Trish in a couple of years. I wonder have you ever golfed with her?
I have not, but I have heard she is a really good golfer. So I would certainly love that.
Yeah, she is an excellent golfer. Her book, The Sales Development Playbook. I remember when she came out with it. I was with her at a Dreamforce event just before it came out, and I read it. And right when I got done, I went back and read it a second time. It was that good. The Sales Development Playbook by Trish Bertuzzi.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of tips, so much content in there.
Well, if you don't follow Trish Bertuzzi, you really should. Mark, when I was looking around for a book this week, I was looking through what I need to reread in my own library, and Trish just jumped out at me, and so it is a definite good one. If you have not read it, she's a lot like Jill Conrath in the fact that she's timeless.
And they're both very good friends. Yes. Anyway, lightning round. Are you ready?
Yes.
Top 10 ways to keep your sales strategy relevant. Go.
Number 1, I'm going to go with pay attention to the analytics. Every couple of months, look back on your sales process and figure out what's working, what isn't working. Keep doing what is, and pay attention to what isn't.
Go vertical. Go vertical. Get deep with your customers, whatever your ICP is. Understand their business.
Yeah. Every couple of months, just go on a listening tour. Forget about selling anything and just go out and talk to customers and really pay attention to what's going on in their marketplace.
Take the listening tour and go one step further. Go listen to their customers. In other words, you're talking to your customer's customer to listen.
Yeah, I would say that number 1, pay attention to salespeople around you that are doing incredibly well and closing more than you are, and figure out what they're doing different in their process than you're doing.
Within the ICP that you're in, that industry niche that you're in, who are the experts? Who are the peers? Who are the guiding voices? What are they saying? What are they talking about? Find out, listen to them, learn from them.
Yeah, ask customers when you lose a deal. When you lose to the competition, ask why. And literally be authentic about it. Say, I'm trying to figure out, where we could improve and where we could get better. Help me understand what about it wasn't valuable or didn't meet your need.
Most of all, don't stop. I'll tell you what, keep momentum going. You may be working to reinvent your sales strategy, but through it all, keep going, because it's much easier to keep a ball moving than to have it stop and try to restart it. You share one more and I'll share one more.
Yeah, I would say get on the technology bandwagon. We don't really know where AI and things like that are really going to fit into the sales process, but it reminds me of years ago when somebody told me about social media. They said it's a complete waste of your time right now, but if you don't learn to use it now, by the time it becomes valuable, you're going to be so far behind. And I feel the same way about AI right now. I don't know that it's incredibly valuable in the sales process, but it's going to be incredibly valuable. So get on board.
Yeah. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's easy to sit there and say you got to reinvent everything, redo everything. Mira talked about this earlier. There may be just a couple minor tweaks that you need to make to keep your sales strategy relevant. But remember, it's about urgency. It's about urgency and helping the customer fill their number 1 or number 2 needs. Yes. So with that, we got more. Go ahead and let's read through some of those quotes. Hey, Brad, Saturday morning coffee and sales logic. You bet. That's what I'm drinking. And I'm Mayor. I think you got a cup of coffee there too,
Oh
right?
yeah, that was number 3. I'm stopping after this one.
Number 3, stopping at 3. Come on, Mayor, pick up the pace. Pick it up.
We got a great debate going on between Jeffrey and Amar, and I'll let them go back and forth on that. Mark, let's wrap it up. Yes. I do want to remind everybody, be looking for information coming on the mastermind. And Mark, I got to mention, the audience was fantastic this morning. You were amazing. Thank you so much.
And that's another reason why we're creating the Sales Logic Mastermind, to create this community. So with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Please, we need reviews, please. If we've helped you earn a single dollar, consider telling a friend, because it's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
And remember, I got to think about what it is we're saying. And uncertainty, who knows what we're saying? Well, I've had such a good time this morning. Man.
Well, the sale becomes logical and uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage. Listen, we'll see you right back here next week, 8 a.m. Eastern. Look for information on the Sales Logic Mastermind. Put your questions in. Fantastic conversation. Everybody, upgrade your outbound sales process. We'll see you next week.
It just proves the show is improv.